I'm here to tell you why Groundhog Day is an enduring comedy classic that will make you laugh your head off while simultaneously contemplating the meaning of life. Now, when I went to see Groundhog Day at the cinema in 1993, I was expecting a conventional high-concept romantic comedy, but it immediately became apparent that this was something really special, hilarious, yet also offering real food for thought. In fact, like all the films featured in the Midnight Movie Club, this is one of my all-time favourite films, and I consider it the best comedy film ever made with profound philosophical depth and a big heart. Groundhog Day is crammed with sardonic wit and great one-liners from the outset, mostly delivered by Bill Murray, who's at the peak of his comedic acting powers here, perfectly cast as the miserably misanthropic and egotistical TV weatherman Phil Connors. His career's going nowhere, and he's particularly bitter about having to travel yet again to the folksy town of Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, to cover the rather bizarre annual tradition of Groundhog Day, where a cute little groundhog apparently predicts when spring will arrive. Phil is clearly attracted to his adorably sweet producer, played by a perfectly cast Andie MacDowell, but he's frankly too horrible to be of much interest to her. Now, at this point you might say, well, that's all great, but who cares? And why is this even a movie worth watching? Well, that question is answered by what happens when Phil wakes up the next morning in his bed and breakfast bedroom, only to discover that it's not the next day at all. In fact, Groundhog Day has begun again. Phil is somehow reliving the same day over and over again. In one of my favourite exchanges in the movie, Phil asks the bed and breakfast owner, "Do you ever have déjà vu, Mrs. Lancaster?" To which she replies, "I don't think so, but I could check with the kitchen." What follows is a really original comedy film that gradually morphs into a moving tale that raises deep questions about morality, redemption, and even religion. After recovering from the shock of his predicament, Phil realizes that he can actually have a lot of fun with this situation. We witness him going through many hilarious and imaginative daily outcomes as the same day stretches into weeks, months, and even years. As he puts it, what if there is no tomorrow? There wasn't one today. The characters are memorable and often hilarious, especially the excruciatingly irritating life insurance salesman Ned Ryerson, who unfortunately crosses Phil's path every single morning. If you want to know how well written the lines are, consider the words of David O. Russell, the Oscar-nominated director of Silver Linings Playbook, who said, "I would give my left arm to have written that f***ing script." And Bill Murray himself said it was probably the best work he'd done. Anyway, eventually this surface-level hilarity becomes intertwined with a deeper yearning for love and redemption. Despite this, Phil does not simply transform from a sarcastic cynic into a syrupy sweet hero, as would have been the case with many lesser films of this type. I mean, yes, he does end up learning a lot about the meaning of life, and even ponders questions about the existence and omnipotence of God. But crucially, Phil doesn't lose his core personality or his acerbic wit in the process. The nuance and sincerity of Bill Murray's performance and the genuine emotional and philosophical depth that gradually emerges are why Groundhog Day will be cherished as a classic morality tale for decades to come. One indication of the impact of this film is the fact that the phrase Groundhog Day has officially entered our lexicon, with the Oxford English Dictionary defining it as a situation in which events seem to be recurring, especially in an oppressively predictable way. If I ever found myself stuck in a time loop like this, it would perhaps be fitting to go and watch Groundhog Day every single day. But meanwhile, I suggest that you check it out right now if you haven't already. Now, I'm going to continue recommending the best films ever made, so please like and subscribe for more. See you soon.